Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Matt Horn
is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, neighbor. You see anything weird outside your house, you tell me, all right?
Pamela Gray. I'm in this movie, The Wretched. It's really, really good, and it's #1 in the box office right now. Matt, I'm guaranteeing that you will enjoy this. It will open up your world. It'll blow your mind. Watch The Wretched.
On the line, we have Pamela Gray talking to us. From where are you talking to us from, Pamela?
I'm talking to you from Los Angeles, California.
Is that the locked down Los Angeles, California?
That's the very one, yes.
Now, obviously, this is another podcast where I have to say COVID-19 is still in the news. It's still ongoing. No end in sight. What's it been like for you, Pamela?
Very lucky in that we have, where I live, we actually have a yard, and I lived for years in New York City in an apartment that was 250 square feet, and I can't imagine what that's like, living in an apartment in New York City. I'm lucky we have a yard, we have plenty of space in the house so that my husband and I don't kill each other. The real downside, honestly, is just not being able to work. And my husband has a jazz club in Los Angeles, and that's been closed since March, and that's hard on the live music venues.
I was going to mention it. It is the Baked Potato Jazz Club.
It is. It's the oldest jazz club in Los Angeles, and he has, prior to lockdown, he put in a live streaming service. He was just starting to build it. And so when the lockdown started, he moved it into gear, and now we will be live streaming baked potato bands internationally. We tested it. We put out a test concert. It was really successful. So we're hoping that will sort of compensate for all the closure. No one wants anything to close, but these legendary, iconic places in Los Angeles, they really need to stay open for Los Angeles to maintain its character. No one wants to walk out to an empty city of storefronts and no jobs.
Are you using something like Zoom?
It's a really high-tech 4-camera system. It looks like you're watching a movie, but it's live. Because sound is so imperative when you're dealing with music, you can't use Zoom. There's no point in trying to share this level of music unless you're going to be able to crank it, and it's going to sound like an incredible mix, and it's going to be beautiful and clear. So it's more like watching a movie, but it's live, and then it goes away. Just like a live concert would go away, it becomes part of your memory and experience and not something you can archive and repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's pretty much unhackable. I mean, of course, there's always going to be people out there that can do it, but you won't be able to save it.
I talked with someone the other day about the fact that obviously she was in a band. She was obviously saying about the struggle of not being able to perform live with the people in the same room. How are you getting around that?
They are performing in the same room. You're allowed up to 10 people 6 feet apart and wearing masks. The musicians are doing that. Yeah, they're just social distancing in the room because there's no audience. That's the way they're doing it. Yeah, we got some comments on the live test about, you guys 6 feet apart, but they are.
Are you fully stocked up?
That wave of not being able to get anything that happened initially, the message got out, at least in our area, that you don't have to, take all the toilet paper known to man. Those kinds of issues are not as dire as they were in the beginning. Things have loosened a little bit here. Where are you? You're in London?
I'm in Leicester.
I don't know where Leicester is. Is that just outside London?
No, it's more sort of 60 miles away.
I see. So you're probably spread out somewhat.
I would say so. I would say it's a bit spread out.
It's just that Los Angeles, by design, it's just not people stacked on top of each other. So it's a little bit different the way it feels. You don't bump into people on the street in Los Angeles if you go outside. No one's walking. Everyone's in cars. It's just a little bit different of a layout, obviously. I'm sure you've been here and you know that. But it's a major city with an enormous population spread over an enormous amount of land, an enormous mile radius. New York City, like Sherman Oaks or Studio City, for instance, the mile radius of one tiny little part of Los Angeles is the same mile radius as New York City, but the population of New York City is the same as the entirety of the full mile radius of Los Angeles. We're navigating it differently here because of that. I mean, they're being completely cautious with the lockdowns. They're still extending them and all of that, but the way it is here, the way that it's laid out here, it's not quite the same kind of people on top of people, and you can't leave your house without encountering another human being. It's not like that here. It's a city, but it's laid out like a suburb.
Well, the reason why I've got you here is to talk about The Wretched.
Yes, which is really wonderful. It's a fantastic movie. I'm just at the end in a small scene. It's essential for the plot and everything, but in terms of the project itself is really, really well done. These guys are so talented. They have created everything you want in a thriller, and I'm an adult, so I don't have any patience for being ahead of something. And, you know, it really is genuinely scary. It's genuinely suspenseful. The actors are wonderful, head to toe, and it's extremely inventive, beautifully shot, inventively shot. I just can't say enough good things about it. This genre of film isn't my first go-to, and I was thoroughly satisfied and entertained, and have recommended it to everyone I know.
I've had Jameson Jones on the podcast, and I've had Brett and Drew on the podcast, and we've all chatted about what we feel the film is like. Jameson and Brett and Drew all seem to agree that it's a bit like Rear Window in parts, whereas I sort of think it's more a bit like The Host.
Yeah, it's sort of like Rear Window meets The Host. Creatively, they have done something very original. It's turned on a dime as soon as you think you know where you are. And that is extremely refreshing in this genre because they really, really stretched their imagination and really are supplying something very refreshingly original within the context of all of the satisfying, you know, points that you want to hit when you experience the ride of a movie that's in this genre. So I wouldn't want to, you know, compare it too strictly because it's really original. And in stretching their own imagination, they ask you to stretch yours, but not in a leap of faith kind of way. It's really you're on that ride.
The interesting thing is, and this is obviously a running gag at the minute, it's not supposed to be a gag, I think it's more sort of ironic given what's going on at the minute, is the fact that it is a independent film, which is, you know, is fine, but the interesting thing is that because of what's happened, it's the highest box office opener at the weekend, all because it's the only film that's been released.
That's fantastic. The indie side of this film, it's not the takeaway that you have. It's so beautifully shot that it doesn't have the feeling of, well, let's put it this way, it doesn't have a feeling of being low budget, which I think some people associate with indie. And it doesn't have the feeling of being, wow, it's really out of left field. I mean, that's only for a very particular, you know, kind of audience, and, you know, that's kind of wacko, and, you know, whatever, they love that kind of niche audience. It's neither of those things, which sometimes we think of as independent film. In the case of this film, it's simply a film that was made independently that has the potential to entertain a very large audience, and I'm not surprised. Well, I mean, you say because it's the only release, but it will do well. It will do well. I mean, I can't imagine that it wouldn't, because it's really special. You know, they've gone as far as you can go in this genre in terms of really raising the bar high.
You've obviously mentioned that it's an original idea. Could you see a sequel happening?
Yes, I think you could. I mean, sure, yeah. This movie has some serious heart to it, which is a great foundation to move into a sequel because you care about the people. You weren't just on a, wow, that was crazy. You actually care about the people. So you'd be interested to see how this moves forward.
Thinking about the idea, because obviously I've talked with Jameson and Brett and Drew, if there was such a thing, I think it would probably likely be more of a prequel.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Prequel is the new sequel. It really is.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I always think of prequels these days as basically, if you haven't had chance in the original project to explain it all, you can just do a prequel and then it sort of fills in the gaps, doesn't it?
That's right. And all those scenes that you cut that gave you backstory because you had to, and it was extra fat for moving the story forward, now you can put them back in, lay them into a prequel story. You get to use those babies. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, I do have to ask the question, what was it like working with the cast and crew?
They were great. I came in near the end because they needed to clarify something. Basically, the scene was written to clarify something in the story. So I came in after much of it was shot. And they're great. They're on top of their game, man. They got a great future. The actors were very professional, and the crew professional. Everyone was on top of their game, for sure. Those guys are really, they've got it going on. They're really smart. They're really good at what they do.
I would agree. I was very impressed when I spoke to them.
Yeah, I'm excited for them. I feel like, in this town, it's really great to have a business partner in this town when you're putting out content, because it can feel very isolating, and the process of pitching your stuff and getting it through and finding money and all of that and being told what you need to do. It's always great to have like another person bookending every single thing that's happening, and then you're bouncing it off of each other, and you can decide together if those decisions are good for you, as opposed to letting one person, one producer, one distributor, one whatever editor, like coming at you. It's great to have someone to share it with. I would think that would be a better way to go. And I don't think it's a mistake that those partnerships tend to succeed when they're smart and they have the goods.
Obviously, I've managed to find out information about the film, namely that there is a scene where a baby is eaten.
I'm not going to tell. I mean, it's the best, mysterious, beautifully executed version of that you're ever going to see.
And it turns out that the baby is, in fact, Drew's baby. So with that in mind, are there any sort of funny anecdotes you can share about the production of the film?
I was there very briefly, so where I completely am, extremely impressed with the goings-on of this film and the creation of it, and I hope these guys go on to do more and more and more, and everybody sees the film. I wasn't really there long enough to have that kind of witty repartee and to see, funny mistakes and that kind of thing. When I worked, it was in and out, and they were done, and they got it, and it was, very clean. But I'm sure if you were Jameson or, one of the kids, I'm sure there's lots of anecdotal stories to share.
Well, let's talk a bit about you, Pamela, you yourself.
Sure.
What made you want to get into the industry in the first place?
Oh, gosh. I don't think I ever wanted to be in the industry, because when I decided to do this for a living, you're not really aware of the industry, and you don't know that you're even making that decision about the industry, because you kind of fall in love with the craft. And I pursued the craft, and then realized that then getting work is, the pursuit of something completely different. I love movies. I loved theater. I fell in love with theater. I fell in love with movies. I wanted to do that thing that I was watching up there, and I tried to figure out what the steps are that you take to do that thing that I'm watching, that I love, that I'm inspired by, and then found out that I was able to do it, and here I am, all of these many years later.
Well, obviously we should mention that you actually wrote, produced and directed a TV series, a mini TV series called Borderline Talent.
I did, yes.
I would presume it's about how to get into the industry.
It's two out-of-work actors who've had careers, and I think you'll appreciate this, that they keep losing work to people who are British and Australian. So they take on alter identities, and one becomes British and the other becomes Australian, and they reinvent themselves and try to get work that way.
So obviously with that idea in mind, what advice would you give to anyone wanted to pursue a career in the industry?
It's such a different game right now. You sort of did this one way for a really long time, which was, you got yourself training, went to a good school, best school you can find. It'll take you, and then you go out and you get an agent and you work really hard to compete against other actors for the job. And when you're not auditioning, you're promoting yourself any way you can with sending out your pictures and all of that, and all of that's changed. With social media, it's so different. I've done a lot of theater. I've done big movies and small movies and television shows and Broadway and off-Broadway. And in all of those areas, you're seeing people with social media numbers getting parts over trained actors. And it's kind of disheartening from our perspective, from my generation's perspective, not because the social media numbers dictate something that is disheartening, but because the lack of training is a little disheartening. But that said, there are a million platforms that you can showcase your work, and if you're creative about it and you're talented and you're able to do that, that's an avenue that certainly was not available to us when we were coming in. And I think that's probably positive. What I tell my students now is make your own content, and if you can put something good out there and you can be in control of it, that's great right now in this environment, especially now. So much is going to happen virtually, so working on your own content is really the only avenue at the moment.
When this is all over, what do you think the state of the industry is going to be like?
Well, I honestly don't know, because how do we define risk? I mean, what is a measure of risk? This is a whole new kind of level of risk that we're not used to, but we are going to have to make friends with it. We're going to have to, at some point, open our doors and go back out and shake hands with risk, because there's more to life than staying alive. So that has to be weighed out. And of course, the vulnerable need to be protected throughout. And there's got to be a way to figure out how to do that. These are high percentages, but they're not, as high as they could be, certainly. I mean, this is eked up beyond influenza, but it is not it's certainly not a death sentence. So where are we with risk? How does the industry going to take that on? I think in terms of the studios, they certainly have to be worried about things like, my client won't fly because my client is over the age of 65 and therefore can't be on set with more than this amount of people, or can't be maskless, or whatever. Whatever these kinds of things are, they're going to have to figure them out fast before everything collapses and implodes on itself, because that is going to be more detrimental. So we really need to, readjust our idea of what risk is, and re-examine what that's going to look like and what that's going to mean, and be as careful as possible in the process.
Well, going back to acting, obviously you've mentioned that you've been in a number of different projects. Which actors and actresses have been your favourites to work with, and why? And who would you like to work with in the future?
I loved working with Nathan Lane. I played his wife. He's so funny and so good with comedy and physical comedy that people sometimes categorize him there. And he's so much deeper and so much more complex, and the hardest worker I've ever been around. I loved working with Al Pacino. Amazing. I could say all the same things about him, except he's not, categorized in one category. Obviously brilliant. Also really nice man. I loved working with Tim Bagley. We did a play out here together. He's an actor, does a lot of comedies, Groundlings guy, but he's also a wonderful, wonderful actor. I'm really old. I've done this for a long time, so I could list countless amounts of people, but I love to work with generous actors who want you to be as good as them, and they allow you to change them and they change you within the context of a scene. And that's really important, and not all actors do that. That's really important to me personally.
I think you're the first person actually we've had on the show who's been in an episode of Sex and the City. Would you believe it?
That's funny. Yeah, that was great. She's great. That was a very fun show. That was really fun show. And Sarah Jessica Parker's really, really lovely person, and all of those girls were lovely, and that was really fun.
Obviously, there are sort of feuds between the four of them. If such a feud was to start, would they reboot it? Possibly.
There's a demographic that just like can't get enough of that. You know, this show Dead to Me with Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellina, that show is, I think, popular in a similar way. It's a very different kind of show, very well written. But I think people like seeing friendship bonds being the primary relationship. I think, especially with women, I think that's a really satisfying, underused plot device.
I mean, obviously we should mention as well, because we're talking about reboots and such. Obviously you were in Sons of Anarchy as well, weren't you, for about 6 episodes?
Uh-huh.
And that's not been on since 2014, I think, something like that?
No, that's done. It was on for a long time, though. It was a good show. I think he had the plan of the story he wanted to tell, Kurt Sutter, and then he told it. You know, he completed it.
Obviously, with all the roles that you've done so far, this is not going to be a question like which has been your favourite, because that's unfair. Are there any sort of roles that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
I'm older now, so I would like to get a crack at some of those older characters. I'm not elderly in that category. I've played Margaret in The Henrys in The War of the Roses, and I'd like to play that again because that's a part that you can play because she ages throughout. I'd like another crack at that now that I'm a more mature actress and I know so much more about it now. I'd like to play Lady M. I think I would be able still to do that.
I've completely forgotten to mention about Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, that's a well done film in terms of what we were talking about. Again, as soon as you think you know where you are, it turns on a dime and surprises you. So that was a really fun project. My only regret about that project is I morphed into like this creature and they cut my morph.
I've had many a line on my show. I'm not going to go into some of the weird ones that I've had, but I've never had someone ever say they cut my morph.
But they did. They cut my morph. You know, I don't know how well you know the movie, but like the Charlize Theron character, she sees these women, and I'm one of the women that's sort of like trying to bring her into the fold of the horrible devil people, whatever. She looks at us, and then like we morph into this thing. You know, she thinks she's going crazy because she sees that happen, and I had one. They shot my morph of me looking out the back window of a car, turning back, or a taxi, and turning back around and looking at her, and they cut that scene. So I never got a morph. That would have been a good legacy to have.
Well, okay, with that in mind, because I am sort of asking people these days about this, the interesting thing is nowadays with like your high-end budget projects, you've got mocap, haven't you? You've got people who dress up in spandex and wear the balls and such and such. Would you be interested in doing something like that?
Dressing up in spandex and wearing the balls?
Yeah.
Of course. I live to dress up in spandex and wear the balls. I dress up in spandex and wear the balls.
Would you ever do anything like mocap?
I would. I think it's cool. You know, hopefully, if you've come into this business, you love storytelling. Anything that enhances or rethinks storytelling is interesting to me.
Because I'm just thinking, if they'd had mocap in Devil's Advocate, they could have done the morph, couldn't they?
They did. I don't know how they did the morph on the other people. Because other people morphed. I don't know how they did it, though. There's a shot in Devil's Advocate, for instance, where Fifth Avenue is completely empty. It's completely empty because Al Pacino's character has created that for that moment. And they cleared Fifth Avenue at 5 o'clock in the morning, as far as the eye could see, for that shot. Warner Brothers was able to do that. I mean, that will not go down in history as that incredible because now that's able to be achieved digitally. But that's incredible. And it's so funny how, as we are able to achieve incredible things with technology, we don't rely on that kind of manual design hurdle. So, the next generation, unless they're taught it in film school, is not going to understand how incredible those kinds of things are. Like car chases. Look at Bullet. Look at Steve McQueen's Bullet. The car chases. I mean, there's nothing fake about those car chases. There's nothing fake about those cars being wrecked. They're really racing down and screeching around corners in the streets of San Francisco in that movie. It's not the same now. You can achieve so much of that with, creative shooting. But it's great that people took those kinds of chances just to get a shot, just to create that much more excitement for the audience. It's incredible to me. And I sort of mourn the limitations that people had to work under and then be creative and have to take those extra chances and create those kinds of visuals.
Well, we're back to risk again, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And you don't have to take as many risks now because you can achieve so much digitally. I can't imagine any actor doing some of the stuff that Steve McQueen did.
Well, I'm going to give you a 1 minute plug, Pamela, a 1 minute plug to plug The Wretched and anything else you've got coming up.
Okay, watch The Wretched. It's incredible. It is a satisfying film. It is a satisfying, scary, mysterious, beautifully shot, wonderfully acted and conceived and appointed film. And just do yourself a favor. It's complete entertainment from beginning to end. You won't be disappointed.
Well, Pamela, it's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Nice talking to you too, Matt. Good luck to you.
Thanks very much for your time.
Okie doke. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a drink. Bye.
Bye-bye.